You'll start seeing people come in.
I won't see anything. I don't have glasses on.
Can you read anything on that screen?
No, except the live pink thing up at the top.
Can you see that it says live, or do you just know?
I just know.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Howdy.
We'll let people join. This is a very exciting time. This is my mom's first and last time on Instagram Live.
Yeah, I know.
She has told me, "Hey, Kevin's mom is joining us."
How nice.
Kevin McCaffrey's mom.
Very
Hi there.
nice. Hi, Kevin's mom.
We've got Bridget and Eric joining. Renee is in.
I'm getting a little
Your daughter
anxious.
is here.
Daughter's okay.
That's all right. Yeah, you've had the most practice doing video calls with with her compared to anybody.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, you got a lot of great questions from people. If you're wondering, if you're tuning in now and you didn't see the post, this is the usual highly sought after Mondays with Maksud time slot. But in an interest of, we've been doing very well with Mondays with Maksud, but sometimes you have to take drastic measures and go for a big ratings boost, and that's what we're doing.
Oh, ouch. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
Someone thinks you look lovely.
Why, thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. I'm going to call him Adam because that's what we call him. I'm Adam's mom. My name's Deborah. And this is my first and probably only appearance of this nature. I'm not quite the camera person that my charming husband is. He does both of these guys do.
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit, maybe.
No.
But you don't seek it out as much, I guess.
You are not a classroom of small children. I don't hesitate for them.
Right. That's true.
Or with my colleagues at work. But it's a little different knowing others that you've not met.
That's true.
You.
Well, there's not too much pressure, and I'll start with I'll lobby some softballs so we can get into it, and then there's not too much pressure.
Right.
Okay. What is the origin of your Instagram handle?
Oh.
And the handle is, because it's not up on the screen, it's what, Badger Girl 58?
Badger Girl 58.
Okay.
So I was born in Wisconsin, and if you know anything about Wisconsin, they're famous for the badgers. It is the state animal, and if you go to the state capitol in Wisconsin, there's a rather terrifying, on either end of the rotunda, a kind of weaselly-looking badger that looks at you. So it is a Wisconsin thing, and obviously I'm a girl. Or I was a girl in Wisconsin, and 58, well, you guys figure out.
There you go.
All right.
Okay. This is one from one of your teacher friends.
Okay.
I think she's joking around with you a little bit. The specific question is, what was the inspiration for your study of 17th century Flemish architecture? I'm not sure if that means anything to you.
Flemish.
I'm wondering if it's more of a reference to your art history background. Could that be? Well, or is there some sort of Flemish club that you're in that I don't know about?
No. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously the art history, definitely. And we've been to see some of those things together. We went to Europe some years ago. So am I forgetting some story I related at some point? That's possible.
Well, let me ask you a question that's based on that. So what a lot of people don't know about you, I don't know how much people know about you other than me referring to you as a small white lady from Wisconsin in my stand-up, but you were an art history major. I was an art history major in college. I loved it, traveled a lot, saw some spectacular art, and then quickly learned that that's possibly, that's a career move right up there with a stand-up comedian, perhaps. Wow, some shade. You know what shade is?
I don't, but I'm sure you're going to tell me.
If you're throwing shade, that means you're taking a little shot at somebody. In a playful way.
Okay.
But I would tend to agree that a career in art history is equally as unrealistic and narrow as a field.
But it was wonderful. I enjoyed it. And I'm a great person to go to an art museum with for free. And your daughter says what happens in Flemish Club stays in Flemish Club. So good of you to adhere to those rules. You wouldn't want that. Whatever goes on in Bruges definitely stays in Bruges. What was your plan in going to college for that? Well, it was originally to go on and get a doctorate, maybe teach in a university, and then I met a tall, dark stranger, and the rest is history. Got a little sidetracked along the way. True. So is there some alternate timeline in which you're like a docent or something like at a museum? No.
No? You think it would have been going into education?
No. A docent is like a volunteer person. Who
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
trains
What am I
himself.
trying to say? Like somebody who works at a museum?
Curator.
Sure, a curator, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I just walk around museums and enjoy them.
What would be if you could have that job at any museum, what museum would it be? Anywhere in the world. No one else matters. You don't have kids, husband, nothing. You're a sad bird lady, and you can just work at whatever museum you want. I'm saying don't take anything into consideration other than like
the
museum you want to
Prado
work at.
in Madrid or the Van Gogh in Amsterdam. Two spectacular but very different museums.
All right. Somebody wants to know what is or was your favorite thing or activity to do with your children as kids and now as adults?
Well, we did like to travel, but when they were little and we were on a limited income because we were young and raising a family, we found every fantastic free thing to do. So we did lots of county fairs, going to the park, going hiking, lots of historical, maple sugaring, all those kinds of
Maple sugaring?
Yeah.
How does that work?
They tap the trees and you watch them take the maple sugar. Clearly it's not one of your stronger memories.
It's not a strong memory for me, but that sounds fun.
Yeah.
How about as adults? Is there such a thing? Like I guess a favorite thing or activity to do with us now
I
that
think
we're...
meeting up with you guys, especially when you were both in New York and planning a day out, even if it was just going to Central Park or something like that.
Yeah. You guys remember New York? New York was this place where you could do all sorts of things. It was great.
Yeah. You could just, anything you felt like doing, you could just plan it and go there and feel like you could walk around. And
Those were the days. Along those lines, are there any fun Mamawala family traditions?
Oh my, we have lots of family traditions, most of which I suppose are around holidays. One thing is if it's your birthday, wherever you are, and that extends to my own siblings, everybody calls you and sings happy birthday to you in whatever key they come up with, or maybe multiple keys, so that's always something we do. Then kind of what we've picked up from Dad's family is for your birthday, we do a coconut ceremony. So when you guys were little, we used to do that. And then holidays, like Christmas Eve, we have an incredible appetizer spread and play games. I don't know, is there anything you remember?
Well, to explain a coconut birthday, do you know the origins of it?
It goes with with the Muslim calendar, but the coconut is an auspicious fruit.
And you hold it and you rotate it around somebody's head?
7 times.
Clockwise or counterclockwise?
I only remember when I'm doing it, and then you tap them right here. And if you don't like them a lot, you use the sharp end of the coconut and tap them a little harder.
Coconuts are very sharp.
And then you give them a sweet, and they give you a sweet.
All right. Ooh, this is an interesting one because you started by saying that you're calling me Adam because that is what you call me. So for people who don't know, my name is Adam. That's what it's like the Indian version of Adam. But that's what everybody called me growing up. I was very insistent about it. And then at a certain point, it just got cumbersome because my name is spelled A-D-A-M. So the question is, once I started, and I don't remember exactly what time it was, but when I started going by Adam, did that bother you?
It didn't bother us. It's just that it was confusing because if we were talking about you to somebody else, then we always had to qualify it. So if I said, I was telling Adam, so they knew who I was talking about.
Right.
And I think you changed that maybe middle school.
Yeah.
Does that sound right? Because all your friends from elementary school, both in Illinois and here, still call you Adam.
Right. Yeah, when we first moved here, I definitely made a point of having people call me that. But then Autumn, I don't think it's that hard to say, but people had a difficult time with it. So then it would be people being like, Autumn, isn't that like a girl's name? And then it was just a whole thing every day on the first day of the year. I would have to explain to everybody, like, oh, I know it's spelled that way, but it's actually pronounced Autumn. And it was just a whole to-do. So
it was easier. And obviously, because Adam already is a name, it's inevitable people are going to call
right.
him that.
And similarly, like the way that you have to explain it to people, call me Adam around people. So my sister's name is Shaheen, but I've never called her that. I call her Bain, which is the Indian word for older sister. But that was very confusing and continues to be, because even now saying Shaheen doesn't feel natural to me. And I think at one point we had an ornament on the tree that said Bain, spelled B-E-N. And there was some sort of confusion around, if I had a brother that I hadn't told anybody about, or that we hid in, the basement or something like that.
The basement we didn't have.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. Well, I guess this is about me, but it can be about both of us.
Okay.
All right, I'll ask you, what do you think is your best quality and your worst quality?
My best quality. I like to think I'm very caring and kind. So I think I'm empathetic. And my worst quality, I'm not very assertive, or at least I don't like to get into a tussle with people. I think I try to be more diplomatic, so sometimes maybe I don't push back on things as much as I should.
I think that's a good answer. And same question for you about me.
What do I think?
What do you think is my best quality and my worst quality? It's okay.
What do you mean it's okay?
No,
Are you worried?
I'm saying you can say whatever you want.
I actually would say the same thing. I think you're really caring and empathetic.
Okay.
And your worst quality is that sometimes you get extremely mad for a very little time. And we've seen that a few times.
What incidents come to mind? Because I'm sure people will be asking in the comments.
Oh, yeah. Well, if we go back to the earliest one, and your sister's going to remember this, we were just talking about it. There was some sort of a bicycle safety activity at your elementary school on a weekend when you guys were little. And for some reason, you weren't getting ready the way we wanted you to get ready. And so finally, we're like, come on, we're ready to go. And then very dramatically, you said, go on without me. Just go then. Go. I'll just stay here by myself. So that was, you were very upset with us. I can think of a few times where maybe a loss by one of your favorite teams resulted in your banging a very cheap door and leaving a dent in it. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I broke a remote.
Oh, that one I don't even remember.
We used to have that weird couch that had like weirdly hard arms.
I know
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And at some point the Bulls lost the game and I meant to throw it into the couch part of the couch and it hit that arm.
That took care of it. Okay.
Yep. All right, let me see what the chat's like. All right, I'm going to get to some of these. Oh, who's doing dishes in the Mamawala house? I mean, I would say it's mostly you. I think we're trying to be
There
helpful.
are so many dishes, and just to say, I love to cook. I don't mind the cleanup. This sheltering at home thing, never run the dishwasher more often. So you're very good about loading the dishwasher and all, and I think I do the what it spills over generally.
We have a few questions from Kyle Davis, and it's also another question that somebody asked earlier. What is, if you have one that comes to mind, what is your favorite joke of mine, and what is your least favorite joke of mine?
Favorite joke of yours? It's a good question, Kyle, because he's got a lot of really funny ones. I do like the one. Oh my gosh, there's so many of them that just. Wow, I wish I'd had in advance.
Tell you what, let's table it. We'll come back
All right,
to it.
I'll see if I can work on it.
In the meantime, what is your favorite thing to cook or bake?
Oh, well, I don't know. I like to cook lots of different things. Indian food, Italian food. Do you have a favorite thing that I make?
I think growing up, it probably was like lasagna.
Okay.
Baking. Great. She's a great cook, great baker. I think cakes are probably what I would, if I were gonna have you like prepare one baked good and like impress people, I would have you make like a Black Forest cherry cake or something like that.
I can do that. Maybe not right now. We'd be eating it for a long time, but yeah, for a birthday or something.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, good question from my friend. Oh, all right. We got a couple good ones. Ken Schultz, my good pal, who is now back in the lovely Chicago, wants to know, what do you miss most about Chicago or the Chicago area?
Just Midwesterners in general. I've gotten used to New Jersey, and now when I go to the Midwest, I'm almost made uncomfortable by the level of friendliness that I find everywhere you go. Strangers say hello to you in big cities on the street, in places like Chicago, and I don't know. I think that's probably what I would say. And of course, my family who are still there. I do miss all of them. Lots.
What do you, in terms of like going into the city, which we did a bit, what are some like good memories you have of Chicago? We
used to do a whole museums a lot with the kids, and Lincoln Park Zoo, which is it's a free zoo. It's one of the, I think one of the best zoos in the country. And we used to go there a lot with you guys when you were little. It was nice to walk around, and Grant Park and Millennium Park wasn't there when we were there, but that's a great addition.
Yeah. All right, so there's some TV related questions. One of the questions is, what is your all-time favorite TV show?
All-time favorite. Ooh,
or we can segment it. We could say, like, what are some things that you loved, like, when you were growing up?
Oh, well, growing up, I mean, it's a long time ago, and I'm going to date myself. That 58's going to come back to haunt me. But I don't know. When I was a kid, I'm sure I watched all the same silly shows everybody else in my generation: Gilligan's Island and Petticoat Junction.
Petticoat Junction. You are dating yourself. What the hell is that?
Acres. The wonderful world of Disney, the Beverly Hillbillies, all sorts of silliness. And we used to my mom was a huge fancier of films and movie stars, so she would often encourage us, if there was a really good late movie on, to, like, take a nap in the afternoon and stay up late and watch movies with her. Cool. Or even Johnny Carson. You couldn't do that except on Friday nights. But The Tonight Show, she loved watching celebrities. And always, and this is a tradition, so it ties back to that, is Oscar night was a huge event in our house. It was the one night my mom took one entire stick of fine Wisconsin butter and melted it in a pan and put it on a bowl of popcorn.
And it's a tradition that lives on to this very day.
It does.
And it's something that we've been doing every Sunday night. Movie night with the Mamawala.
Not the whole stick, though. That's only for Oscars.
Much to our chagrin.
Yes.
Well, how about right now? What is your in, like, say, the past couple of years? What's been the thing that you've most enjoyed watching?
We liked Deadwood. We liked Justified, Outlander. I know it's corny, but we love it. We went to Scotland last year and visited a bunch of the movie stars.
Highlander or Outlander?
Outlander.
What's Outlander?
It's a series that's like a timed. It's something that I would never expect Dad and I would watch, and we love it. But it's a time travel kind of thing that's set in Scotland.
Another question, especially because of the font I use, and also because we just finished watching Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Which Marvelous Mrs. Maisel character do you most identify with?
Oh, I wish I could say it were Midge.
On the Susie to Midge scale, where do you fall in between?
I'm there. I don't know. I'd have to be somewhere. The cast-off sister. I don't know. I would love to be like Midge.
Oh, Imogene? No, Imogene is the friend.
Imogene's the kind of dingy friend. I don't know. Maybe one of the girls at the department store. I have no idea. I don't see myself as Susie, and I certainly don't see myself as Midge. And Rose.
And you're definitely not Jane Lynch.
No. Or Rose. I don't know.
Yeah, Rose. You're definitely not. You're not a Rose type mom at all, which is a good thing. She's a bit much.
Or the mom.
Oh, Jesus. Let's see. We've got some other good questions here. Favorite Indian dish? Yeah, Katie Oldenburg is right. You're better than a department store girl.
Oh, thank you, Katie.
Okay, couple good ones. Favorite Indian dish? Let's say favorite one to eat and favorite one to make, if those are different things.
It could be, yeah. I like to eat biryani, but I don't think I make it as well as some of the other things. And a couple of chicken dishes I think that I make really well.
Okay. What is your... we talked about this a little bit before, but what is your dream profession?
Actually, there's a person on public radio named Terry Gross who does...
People know Terry Gross.
Yeah. All right. If I could have anyone's job in the world, it would be Terry Gross's job, because she gets to interview the best of the best athletes, film stars, musicians, historians. I think her job must be fascinating, and she always does great research.
Oh, yeah. We're jumping all over the place, but that's okay. It's kind of fun. Here's some questions about being a teacher. What's one of your funniest or best memories about your students? And how did you decide what age range you wanted to teach?
When I started working in a public school, it was as a sub, and then I got pulled into a lot of special ed classes. So my first full-time job was as an assistant in a class of special needs students, and I will share one of my favorite stories from that. It was a small group. They were pretty intellectually challenged, and the classroom teacher and I were trying to teach them how to play Guess Who. So she sat behind one student, and I sat behind the other student. And so we were trying to tell them how you had to look and different characteristics and how to ask. And the first question that my student said to her classmate was, "Does your person have a head?" So, and that pretty much defines, like,
if
the
you've
next
never played
15
Guess Who,
years.
That's the whole game.
That is
They're
pretty
all
much
heads.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, just the stories that I remember from the students you've worked with, not even specifically, but just in terms of like working with kids who have such specific, we were talking earlier today about a student that she had who was very, afraid of, like, I don't know if that's something that you want to share or don't want to share, but in any case.
I don't know if she has an Instagram account, but it's a...
Well, we won't out anybody, but the point is that in working with special needs kids, it's obviously a very unique sort of world to work in.
Yes, and the stories are endless, and that's with all kids. I'm currently, the last 3 years, been in a kindergarten class with my friend Renee. Hi, Renee. And kindergartners have, they're not special needs, the group I work with, but they are an endless source of entertainment, and you just... I don't know, there's so many stories. The group this year are so good, they don't have quite as many stories. It's usually when you have a few stinkers that you get the most,
Well, you could tell everybody about their guesses for when I come to visit.
Yeah, Alden came to visit this year, and the first thing that the teacher I work with, Renee, asked the students is if they would like to guess how he was related to me. And the first guess was that he was my dad.
It's all about size, I think, when you're 4 or 5 years old. If you see somebody who's clearly much larger than someone,
right,
it makes sense. Like, well, my parents are bigger than me, so logically.
And then he was my husband. And then we finally had to talk about who he was to me and how I was older than, because they thought he was older than I was. And finally, they did get that he was my son. But
years ago, do you remember the guesses in that particular classroom?
Yes. So this was in a self-contained special needs class. I did have a student who asked if he were a daisy.
Yeah, just like a flower, kind of.
He's such a bright and cheery kind of guy, but our favorite was somebody who asked if he was Jesus. You can't make this stuff up.
Good timing for that.
And I would add that I'm trying to think what you would have looked like at that point.
I don't even know that I had facial hair.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not like I had like long hair and a beard.
No.
I was wearing my robes and sandals that day, but I still don't think I looked that much like Jesus. We've got such good questions here. I think Katie Oldenburg asked, "What is the quality that you think you most passed on to me or to your kids?"
I think. Again, thinking about other people or putting yourself in somebody's shoes. I guess maybe coming from a family that's like mixed ethnically, and just I think we don't spend enough time trying to think of how other people feel or how they see the world. So I think that would be one of the things.
Yeah. Well, along those lines, this is something I've been wondering about, and there's some questions about it too. Like, did you, because where we grew up, or where we lived in Illinois, I don't remember it being very diverse, or at least not in terms of like a lot of different kinds of people being there. Like there were white people and black people, but outside of that, it was pretty limited. Did you ever feel like anybody like looked at you and Dad differently, or like felt any type of way about the fact that you were mixed race? Because it almost didn't even occur to me growing up. It was like, these are just my parents. Like it wasn't like a big thing in my mind.
So you've seen my complexion. You've seen his. So when I used to take them to the pool in the summer, Adam and his sister, and they were very tanned, I would occasionally have people ask if they were adopted. So yeah, there were times, I'm not sure anybody meant to make me feel bad, but they were clearly, they could see that you guys looked like each other, but you didn't really look like me.
Right. Any update on your favorite joke of mine? Because we've got somebody else asking. Or least favorite. We could start negative.
It's funny because I have a friend and her favorite joke is one that's probably my least favorite, but It's about the basketball player.
Basically it's one of my more blue jokes.
It always gives me pause, I guess.
Of course, it's insane. Yeah.
And I do remember when he first started in comedy, and he would tell some of these stories, and I'd say, but did that really? Because then you're like, well, wait, did something happen, and he just didn't want to tell me? And he assured me that a certain amount of it was exaggeration. He didn't define how much.
If you're wondering about the joke in question, it's on my Instagram. I reposted it a few weeks ago. and I think it's called, like, the top of it is called rock bottom. I think that's the joke that
Yes,
you're
it is.
talking about.
It
Yes,
is. It is.
we will not discuss it now. How about a favorite joke?
I just, you've done quite. I just saw you perform recently, and well, it was a sensitive topic what you've gone through in the last year. But I think the one about your friend who was such a schmuck that he made an album and put his wife's picture.
Yes, this is an unreleased joke, but you all will see it at some point.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
I hope I created some buzz, maybe.
Yeah,
okay,
possibly.
There you go. All right.
Question for me: what's the best part of being quarantined with mini Mamawala? I don't know if that's for me about a small lady, or for you about me as like mini, like as your child.
Well, we could both give it a shot.
I mean, I don't know. It's obviously very weird to be home at this stage of my life for this long of a period of time. But I'm trying to look at it as an opportunity to spend an amount of time with my parents that I realistically never would have. Like, I'm not happy that everything that's happening is horrible, but I can't imagine a time, if not for a pandemic, where I would have just been at home for a month or two ever again in my life. Probably.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think it's been nice because, I live in New York, which is an hour from here, but what do we see each other in a year?
Not nearly
seven times, 6-7 times.
Absolutely.
A few times longer over like the holidays, but yeah, I think just being able to spend time, and also it's nice to not want to kill each other. I think there's probably a lot of people right now who, even if ordinarily they get along, are like, I can't deal with this anymore. So yeah, I don't know. What about you?
Comic relief. No. No, I mean, it's true that even though we don't live geographically that far apart, you have an extremely busy schedule that keeps you out at all different kinds of hours, so it is often difficult to connect. And now that you're in Queens now, but you don't have a car anymore that you're using, so for you to come home is a bit of a schlep on the train.
Right.
And it's expensive and all, it's time consuming. It feels like half the trip home for a weekend is on the train. And we don't get in as often as we'd like, so it's just nice to have a long stretch, because like anything else, when you're with family or people you're close to that you don't normally get to spend time with, then all kinds of things come up in conversation that maybe you wouldn't have when you just got a condensed, visit.
Yeah, I think it allows for more like long form conversations about things than just like catching each other up on whatever. When
we're playing the famous Maksud in Rummy, I have someone who can lose with me and take on some of that burden.
He's a card shark. We'll talk about it. Maybe we'll do a feature about his bullying. Lovely man, as you've been able to tell over the past few weeks. But
he's just better than we are. What are we?
He is better than we are.
So much better.
Okay. All right. Speaking of the man, the myth, the legend, the Maksud, what about him made you fall in love with him?
Ooh.
Yeah. Spicy dish here. Yeah.
Well, the first thing I noticed was the smile, because he has this great smile. And this is a very nutshell when we first met, but he was working as a student manager in our student union, and it was holiday season, so he didn't have anywhere to go because he was a foreign student. And I graduated early so I could save money to study abroad, and I was working in the same student union, and we passed each other in the hallway, and he just smiled and said hello, and I said, whoa.
You swooned?
What's that guy's name? And I found out his name, so I quickly looked him up back, there was no Facebook, obviously, but there was a student union, like directory or something, and it said he had come from Casablanca, Morocco. Well, that's it. I'd only ever been to Wisconsin and Illinois, and oddly, Idaho. So,
for those of you younger folks, going to a student directory was the sliding in the DMs of the late 70s.
So anyhow, I looked him up, and then, he has a great sense of humor. We had a lot of things for people from two different places, a lot of interests that were the same. And I don't know, it was a whole package.
Oh, that's very sweet. You're going to make people cry. We got a lot of questions about this, and this was like one of the main topics that I think people wanted to hear from you about, having now gotten to know Dad. This is kind of a bit all-encompassing question. I'll let you address any of it. How was meeting the in-laws for the first time? So I was meeting Dad's family for the first time. That was it nerve-wracking, adapting to and learning a new culture? And what was that like in terms of like cultural differences?
So the answer is yes, because we were married here. He did, and that I'll let him.
And yes,
tell
this is my mom. If anybody's joining us,
I'll let him tell his own story one day. But he went home to tell his parents he had met a girl in the United States that he wanted to marry, and so we decided to get married here, but we didn't at that time have enough money. We'd already had sent him home to get permission, which he did. And so we got married in the US, and I did not meet my in-laws. We were married in September of 81. I didn't meet them until May of 1983. So we flew into India and they met us at the airport, my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and sister-in-law. And so our first encounter was staying in less than perfect accommodation, shall we say. They had booked a very nice hotel, knowing they had this daughter-in-law coming from the West, which had been, someone had bribed it right out from under them, and so we had to stay in an adult version of a youth hostel. I don't know how to describe it. And so it was very rustic, but the good news was we did have our own toilet, which, trust me, if you had been to India in 1983, you would not understand just how important that was. So, wow. So it was, but they were lovely, my in-laws. They really, I felt they accepted me. The next big step was meeting the extended family. That was quite something, because Maksud's mom was from a family of 10, and there were all these aunts and uncles and cousins, and we were invited to a meal at the sort of head of the family, the eldest uncle's house, where 8 of us were served and everyone else watched us eat.
Watched you eat?
Yes, because in India, in Maksud's family, they eat from a large plate called a thal. You only eat with your right hand. And you have to sit on the floor, and this big plate is up on a stand. So you don't want to lean on it. Mm-hmm. You have to sit on the floor and eat everything from that common plate. Mm-hmm. And there was some concern by the relatives, would I be able to eat the spicy food, or would I know how to eat with my hands?
I feel like to some degree it was kind of like a big audition. Not as if they would have said like, oh, if you don't eat with your hands properly, like you're kicked out of the family. But I think there was an expectation of like. But
Dad gets credit. He did go on a training course with me, serving me food and teaching me how to eat with my hands, because there's an art to it. You don't just scoop it up and shove it in. So
yeah. What was, I think I asked you this just a couple weeks ago, just talking, but like leading up to that trip, what was your level of apprehension around not only going to India, but just like meeting everybody in that way?
Again, your dad was the first person to marry somebody outside of his community and his religion and his nationality, so it was a big deal, and we had hopefully done all the right things and gotten permission and gotten married, multiple ceremonies, Christian ceremony and Islamic ceremony, all of that. But you don't know how people will accept you. And not only that, you're like the standard bearer for your entire country. Back then, very few people from the U.S. went to India. But in the city that his dad's from was a huge, there was a fellow called the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, who had an ashram and a huge following some years later in the U.S. and Europe. And there were all these hippies who had come to follow him. So that, that was the only exposure most people had to somebody from the U.S.
Yeah. I mean, because I don't know if it's fair to say you were like sheltered growing up, but like you grew up in Whitewater, Wisconsin. You went to college in Whitewater, Wisconsin. So were there moments like that first trip in India where you just kind of looked around and you're like, how the hell, like, did it just seem surreal considering?
Well, fortunately, I had done some travel. I'd been to Europe twice before I went to India, so that helped, because I think if I had gone right from Wisconsin to India, it would have been a much greater shock. At least I had been other places and met different kinds of people, so I don't think it was quite as hard for that reason.
Kyle wants to know where if you had one, was your honeymoon? I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, great question, Kyle. So we got married in September, and we had 2 fully paid college degrees, and that's it. So we actually got married in my parents' living room, and our attendants were my siblings and their families. And I didn't even have a wedding ring yet because my brother, who worked at Sears, said he would buy that for us as a wedding gift, but it hadn't arrived. So my mom gave me her ring. My dad gave his ring to your dad. Mm-hmm. And after the pastor said we were man and wife, we both turned and gave our rings back to my parents. We had a family dinner, and then my parents very graciously went to my sister Carol's house so that the newlywed couple could have the house to themselves. And that, Kyle, was my honeymoon.
Wow.
From humble beginnings.
Now, this is something that I can, have my dad address at some point. But we talked, or you just talked about like what it was like meeting Dad's parents. What do you remember of Dad first meeting your parents?
So, great question. At the time I met your dad, it was when the hostages had been taken in Iran, and we had quite a few students from Iran at our university. So anybody who was dark-complected and dark-haired was automatically, suspect. Mm-hmm. So my dad, for those of you who are young, you may not know the Archie Bunker reference, but my dad was a lovely man, but a bit of a racist, and that's just who he was. So when I had your dad come home for the first time, it was for my birthday dinner, and my mother had asked him to please behave, and he said things like, "Oh, I suppose we can't eat ham," and things like that, knowing Dad was Muslim. So he was on his best behavior. We were all sitting around the dinner table, and then he looked at Dad and said, "And what do you think of that Ayatollah?" Which was not normal table talk. I mean, that's just not polite. So I'm sure he got kicked under the table by my mom. But Dad handled it. He said, I think he's a bad guy. And that was good enough for Grandpa. So,
I mean, that's that's a fairly easy answer.
Well,
to just say that you're not a big fan
I think he just threw that out, Grandpa, to see what would happen.
Well, was there any... did you have any expectation, like when you first, told your parents about, I've met this guy, I don't know how that worked, but like, were you afraid that your dad or your parents would have some objection to it? Well,
if anybody, it would be Grandpa.
Yeah.
Your dad and my mom hit it off immediately. They also had a lot of interests in common. I never really dated much in high school or college, so just the mere fact that I was bringing a guy home was a big deal. To my family. So, I'm sure there were many whispered conversations and what's this guy's name and, who is he? And but when we finally did decide to get married, we took my mom on the side and told her first. Grandpa was napping, which was something he did a lot of. and then we thought we would go with my mom to tell him in case he had any objection. And he was like, "Oh, that's great." And then proceeded to tell us a story about some friends of theirs he tried to set up on a blind date. I think we were a little offended that there was no pushback. We practiced, You
came in like guns blazing, you were going to defend yourself, and it wasn't necessary.
Sure. Yeah.
That's so funny. Somebody wants to know what the key to a happy marriage is. You will be, next year, 40 years next year. Yeah,
this fall will be 39, right. Maintain a sense of humor, patience, and I'll quote one of my favorite ladies, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Her mother-in-law told her, sometimes you have to be a little deaf. You can't let everything you hear annoy you. Sometimes you have to just take into account, maybe somebody's having an off day, or maybe they didn't mean for it to sound that way. So I think, because lots of little things build up to be big things. So don't let the little things derail you.
All right. Let me see if there's anything I missed. If anybody else has some other questions before we start wrapping this up, now's the time.
Wrap it up.
Hit us up in the chat. And I could be lying about what you're typing because she says she's not wearing glasses, so she can't read them. Will Daly wanted to know, who is your favorite friend of mine? I think you're supposed to answer Will Daly.
Will Daly, you're a mention, you know that.
Ooh, what was the dinner guest question? I think it was like, if you could choose any dinner guest, who would it be?
Ooh, I used to love to think of that. I don't know. Dad had come with me for this one. Maybe Alexander Hamilton. We just were talking about him. Or Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'll take either.
Or both. They'd have quite a chat.
Opposite ends of the table. Let's see how that would.
Yeah, who would your dream dinner guest be?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many. I'm a history person, so there's no stopping me.
Whoa. So many good questions. Are you happy I went into comedy?
Well, are you happy you went into comedy?
Yeah.
Yeah, then we're good. However, I will say that it was a surprise because, people always assume that it's the person who was the, class cut up or the funniest guy. You have a great sense of humor and a way with words, but it's not any kind of career you ever talked about. He did want to be a paleontologist, and he knew the names of every dinosaur you can imagine when you were little.
I think the dream, it was, I wanted to be a paleontologist, then I wanted to be in the NBA. That was a short-lived dream. Do you remember other dreams that I had?
I think you'd have been happy working somewhere in the sports field.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about a reporter or writer or something, but maybe something related to that front office kind of thing. You did have a rather dreadful internship with Trenton Thunder. I think that cured you of wanting to.
So bad. If anyone from the Trenton Thunder sees this...
Too bad, because they were nasty.
F you.
Yeah.
Proudest moment of me as a comedian? Something, I guess that's more broad, but is there a memory that you...
I thought your show, well, when you won the New Jersey Comedy Festival, we were blown away.
You were there, right?
Oh, yeah. And you were really good. Since then, I think your show at Caroline's was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, his recent show at the Hillsborough High School.
It went pretty well.
It was good.
It was good.
Yeah. Actually, it was a much better audience than you might have ever thought.
It was actually, I was as scared about it as you probably were going to India. That was my level of fear. It's this could be disastrous.
I don't know. You did one at St. Joe's once, so that also,
Oh gosh, at the parish.
Yeah. You gotta.
Why did I do that?
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if there's anything else here. This is the one and only time, so I want to make sure that we cover everything. Okay. Is there anything that you would like the people to know?
Any deep, dark secrets?
I think somebody asked what would be your first thing you want to do after quarantining is over.
Oh, I don't. I think we're going to be a little shy of going out. I'd like to have somebody else take me out to dinner. Not have to cook it. In all fairness to your dad, there are many times where he'll say, "You want to go out for dinner tonight?" And I'll be like, "Nah, it's okay. I don't mind cooking. It's Friday. I'm tired."
You had.
You should have taken advantage. Taken advantage when he asked. Actually, we're desperate to travel. We had to cancel a trip, and we really like to travel. So I guess that's going to be the one thing, a big way that I want to do. But I think just doing ordinary things. I'm going back to school. It's really hard not to see kids, especially kindergartners. They're really cute, and you want to hug them, and you can't. It's hard to do that remotely.
Yes. Allie, is that, when you say what do you appreciate most about each other, does that mean the two of us or my mom and my dad? And yes, you can cut my hair the next time.
Oh, that won't be good.
I'm waiting to see. I don't know what the question is. I appreciate your kindness and your love and your support, and also it's not something that I thought about because it was just how I grew up, but I think people, now that they've met both of you, I think people probably assume that me being a comedian is kind of influenced by my dad being a very gregarious sort of guy who's likes to be in front of people and is comfortable, and I do think that that's true. But when I think about where I developed my sense of humor, I think you were just as much a part of that as Dad. I think that we always grew up in an environment where that was welcome. I think a lot of people growing up, if you were the sort of person who wants to make a joke, you feel like you can't do that because somebody's going to get mad at you for goofing around. I think we always felt very, I feel like we always were joking around as a family.
Yes, I think that's true.
Nothing was ever too serious.
Still do.
Yeah.
We still do.
Yeah.
Every now and then, somebody who's not on them will throw out a really funny line.
Yeah. And that was the question. What do we appreciate most about each other? So what do you appreciate most?
What I appreciate, and I would extend this to your sister as well, I appreciate that I have adult children that I would want to be a friend with if they weren't my kids, and who still want to come home.
Yeah.
I mean, and not just under threat of a quarantine.
Not just to escape the epicenter of a global pandemic, but also out of we say that every year at the holidays, that it's, for a lot of people, holidays are a stressful time because it's like, oh God, I have to deal with this person or that person, and that's never really been the case for us, which is nice.
It would be horrible if we weren't together for all those times.
Yeah. We've got people feeling, Laura's feeling parent envy. It's very nice. But don't tell her parents.
Okay.
We won't. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it. We'll see if I can coerce you into doing this again. But no pressure. Even if it was the one and only time, it was great. We may be back next week with a Mondays with Maksud. It remains to be seen. I'll be talking to the head of programming. That's me. And I guess my dad, and we'll figure it out. But until next time, if there is a next time, see you later.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar. Thank you, right here. Has Jared Goldstein checked in here? He hasn't shown up yet. I thought he might have come to the clinic by accident. Doesn't sound familiar.